Simon Kennedy's radio career started, like a lot of people's, in a small-town radio station.
I managed to work my way in those 2 years up into the breakfast show.
Getting from there to the big leagues wasn't as easy as he thought.
All of the people who were getting those sweet capital city breakfast radio jobs were stand-up comedians. I might give that a go.
And if you think it's as simple as that, you are a comedian.
I'm a radio announcer who went to afters, and now I'm going to be on the street team.
But would you believe it? That was Simon's way in.
Between the songs, if you didn't have an ad, anything else was kind of me making silly.
There isn't a sweet gig out there that can't turn sour with the right management.
How about you not on air at all? And I'm like, oh, this is a good chat.
So Simon flipped the script.
I didn't have to deal with the garbage. I just walk in, read the stuff and go.
May your best years be ahead of you. I'm Andy Marr, and this is Off Mic, Life After Radio. Simon Kennedy is a voice artist, comedian, keynote speaker and author based in Sydney, Australia. He started out on radio as an announcer before getting a very unique role, writing and voicing comedy imaging for the Nova radio network. These days you'll hear him on promos for ABC TV throughout Australia, and if you're on LinkedIn you might see him there as well. He's pretty active as the president of the Australian Association of Voice Actors, or AAVA for short. Now, we don't touch on it during this chat because it's not what the conversation was about, but in 2014, Simon wrote an amazing book. You see, something really awful happened to Simon and his family. It's something that affected all of us, but it most particularly took someone really precious from him. And his story it's a story about his road back from a really awful place. It's called 9/11 and the Art of Happiness. I can't recommend it highly enough. I knew I'd be lending it to friends, so I literally went out and bought 2 copies. And yes, I'm the kind of person who uses the word literally. Simon Kennedy, thanks for coming on the show, mate. Good to see you.
Andy Marr, this is good. This is, I love a reunion.
It is a reunion of sorts, isn't it? 2009 Triple M alumni. Yeah. Survivors, same thing, really.
And it was my brief stint at the M's.
Yeah, we had a really banging show there for about, 2 months, a month or something. And then
minutes,
they were like, oh, let's try some other comedians. And it was like, Simon was fine.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really on air, see. I was playing a supporting role.
Yeah.
And, but that's what you get. I am always, as a young fella, wanted to be on Triple M Breakfast because I grew up with Doug Mulray. And I'm like, this is it for me. But the closest I got was basically writing sketches and doing character voices for Ugly Phil and Sammy.
Yeah, fun times while they were there. But then, that show and that whole station at that time was a weird place. And I rip-corded out of there before the show ended, and everyone else wanted to leave as well.
You do get that, don't you?
So was that your last steady, such as it was, radio gig?
It was my last radio gig. And to be honest, I actually figured I'd said goodbye to radio at that point. And 2009 was, I guess it was in the middle of the financial crisis. So everyone was struggling. And I'm like, I better do something. And my old program director, Mr. Scott Muller, said, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, I think I have to. So yeah, that was my last radio job.
What was your first?
My very first radio job was in 1996, fresh out of AFTRS, the Australian Film, Television, Radio School, of which you are an alumni, to use that word again. This job came up at Now FM in Moree, northwest New South Wales. And
population?
It was about 10 to 12,000 at the time, I think.
Yeah.
I was a suburban boy, but I definitely wasn't a country boy. And it was a real eye-opener. So 2 years I was in Moree.
So that was on air, or what were you doing there?
Yeah, I was on air. And my first job was predominantly the nights show, which was requests and all that sort of stuff. And I actually had a great time. And I really enjoyed getting to know regional Australia and that opened my eyes as a person, not just as a radio person. I thought I knew it all. I don't.
So what happened after Moree and the bright lights of Gundawindi and Wee Waa?
Well, because I managed to work my way in those 2 years up into the breakfast show. I meant that we had to sort of lift weight in other areas because their budget wasn't for, add another person on air. So I ended up doing a lot more than I had to, but it was a ball, and I didn't get the big smoke city jobs that I wanted. I was sending tapes out. I really wanted to make my way back to the city. Martin Malloy were huge on air at the time, and I would try and listen to that, and I loved that. I want to do that. And eventually I left Moree without a job to go to, and I realized that all of the people who were getting those sweet capital city breakfast radio jobs were stand-up comics. And I went, well, I think I'm funny, and I write comedy, sketch comedy. I do this, and I think I might give that a go. So I managed to get some shifts like 2GB paneling and stuff like that. So I managed to get some income. I'm a terrible panel operator, though. Like, I make so many mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Any stand out?
Yeah. I remember they threw me in the deep end. Like they just went, here's the panel. You know how to panel. I'm like, yeah, but I've never paneled this panel. I don't know what every fade is hooked up to. And they threw me in. I had to panel State of Origin one night.
Yeah.
I thought I was playing an ad break, and the whole ad break just disappeared from the screen. It deleted. And I'm like, how do I... What? I don't know how people didn't notice.
Well, this was 2GB in 98.
Yeah. So
it's not like 2GB now. There were half a dozen listeners.
They were the bottom of the barrel back then. They were, yeah. Anyway, so I was doing that, and I started in 1999. I started working as a stand-up comedian. I started doing open mic.
Yeah.
You work for nothing. You get up there and you present in a way that. I did anyway, in a way that I thought a comedian would be. And then I just sort of gradually started to be more me and got pretty good at it.
Did the comedy bug bite you from that first gig, or did you just sort of, how did you feel after your first one?
I loved it, yeah. And I wasn't as good as I thought I was, but I enjoyed it. When the few giggles that I got felt amazing, because the one thing that I will say about stand-up compared to radio is the joy of stand-up is that when you land a joke, you get that feedback from the audience immediately, and it feels really great. Like on radio, you do a joke and assume it's funny.
Yep.
You just
and the other people in the room laugh feverishly at you because they've had way too much caffeine and they're nervous as hell. Yeah,
well, that's it. You've got the canned laughter from, that's always one of those things that radio people love, is that, you've got a breakfast crew or whatever, was a Jimbo and Sally in the morning, and everyone's got to giggle at Waz's jokes and whatever, and they make this canned laughter. But they don't always know it's funny, because, you might be listening to that going, why are they laughing at that? That was terrible. But comedy, and it became really good for me. Having stand-up comedy as part of my professional identity started to really help in the end.
And how long after your first open mic before you started getting paid gigs?
Well, so I started in 1999, and I did my first and only Melbourne Comedy Festival show in 2001.
Why do you not do more of the Melbourne Comedy Festival gigs?
Because I started earning money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. To pull back the curtain, for most comedians, and here it is, listeners, comedy festivals are money pit. They mostly lose money or break even at best. And then everyone's like, going to go to a festival. I'm like, why would I do that when I'm gigging, like constantly gigging and getting paid? So I did. And when everyone else went to festival, I'd stayed and did all the work. Yeah. And it was like, and there was heaps of gigs.
There were rooms to fill in Sydney still.
Totally. And that was the way I operated. I also, in 2001, started a new gig at a radio station, a brand new radio station in Sydney called Nova 96.9.
I have a recollection of that.
when they launched, I was working at Fox Studios Australia. I was working as a performer in the Titanic show.
You were the door that Rose was sleeping on, I gather.
Yeah, I got painted like one of those French girls. No, I was like one of the officers on the Titanic. So people would come in. I'd say hello and welcome aboard the RMS Titanic. My name is Reginald Barker and I'm your purser. So I would do that, 20 times a day.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was really fun. And when I was there, Nova, who had just gone on air, had this like audition thing happening. I didn't realize what it was at the time, but it was basically for promo street team people.
Oh, yeah.
And they wanted street team people who were, I don't know, just a bit quirky, a bit different, not just, icy cold cans of Coke. And they went, oh, yeah, you're good. Do you want to work for us? And I'm like, God, what am I doing? I'm going backwards. Like I'm a radio announcer who went to afters, and now I'm going to be on the street team. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It'll be fun, whatever. And so I did it. I joined. And because they hadn't quite worked out what the station was yet, I'd take like a recorder out and I'd go and vox pop people and I'd bring them back to the engineer who was the imaging engineer at the time. He would chop them up and I'd say, I said, you could just use that bit and stick a tag, an over tag on it and like jam it between songs because it's like just a little bit of color and a bit of comedy. And then this new program director had started who was Scott Muller. And he heard it. He goes, love it. Put it on air. He goes, what other ideas you got? And I said, well, what about I do, like mini sketches, like sketch comedy stuff, but like just little ones. And that would then become the personality of Nova 969.
Yeah.
So between the songs, if you didn't have an ad, and there weren't a lot of ads at the time.
Never more than 2 ads in a row, Simon.
Never more than 2 ads in a row. And jocks. So anything else was kind of me making silly.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was great because I got to be whatever character I wanted. I got to do all the comedy I wanted to do. Instead of having my own show, I just had the airtime spread across the day. And then I got a show on the weekends as well with my good friend Steve Philp, who's also a comedian, stand-up comedian. And and we were on air. We had a good following and they moved us to Saturday morning breakfast. So we did Saturday morning breakfast, which we called, it was just called Kennedy and Philp.
You would have been up against another 2 people with an ampersand between them as well, and you were outrating them, I understand.
We did actually. Yeah, we were up against Hamish and Andy, who are great. They're wonderful.
Yeah, and how long were you at Nova for all up?
I think I was up maybe 7 years. Eventually, my goals and those of my management at Nova were very different.
Okay.
So, you go through different bosses, and some of them you'd work for free.
Yeah.
And then some of them you couldn't pay me enough. No. I won't name names, but I went into the person in Power's office. I sat down and said, look, the station sound is changing a lot. I'm like, you're not using the character and personality that I've built over the years anymore. In fact, you're backseating that stuff. I'm thinking, how about I wind back on my imaging work and ramp up on air because I really want to be on air more, And he said, how about you not on air at all and just more imaging? And I'm like, oh, this is a good chat. And I think that was one of those moments where he probably wanted me to leave. But I was quite fine with that because I'm like, yeah, I'll go. So I went out, typed up a resignation, slapped it on his desk, and really great idea because my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I hadn't even discussed it with her. But I went, well, I'm just going to do voiceover and I'm going to do comedy.
Yeah.
And I had more time to do voiceover and I was more available. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, Nova still needed my voice on air because I was on air, in quite a few states still. and I was still part of the sound. So I got to go in still every week, maybe twice a week, and still get paid. So it actually was a really kind of handy transition. So I still got the money and I didn't have to deal with the garbage. I just walk in, read the stuff and go.
So Simon, 2009, we're back at Triple M in Sydney.
Right.
Ugly Phil has been pulled off air, hasn't even had the chance to throw to an ad break. You're behind a live mic and we need to get the hell out of here. What have you got?
Oh, wow. Okay. It's 20 to 12. It's pretty fine and mild outside, 24 today. Coming up, we've got some Nickelback. And by the way, the celebrity, I'm not going to tell you who it is right now, who doesn't wear pants. You have to stick around. This is Triple M.
Beautiful. Now I want to know who the celebrity is wearing the same as I am.
It's me. I'm not a celebrity.
Still coming up with Simon Kennedy on Off Mic, Life After Radio, the skills that he took from radio that he still uses to this day, and the fight for ethical AI.
There aren't any rights right now that any citizen of this country has to stop someone taking their voice, their image or likeness, and creating an AI clone of it and using it for whatever they want.
What do you miss about radio?
The friends. I do miss collaboration. I loved collaborating with people and fun people, especially to create something creative, to create something fun. It's like playing for money. It's so cool. Yeah. I miss working with fun people, and voice work can be a little bit lonely at times, especially now that remote home studio recording is the norm. It's very much the norm. Oh, I love going to the studio. I love going in.
It is fun.
Just seeing people. Yeah. So that's what I miss about radio. I miss the fun times of, having a laugh, standing in the hall, talking shit, and then going, that's a good idea. Let's get that on air. I don't miss the industry. I just miss that part.
Yeah. And who would be the radio pro that you admire most?
One radio professional I admire the most for their skill and doing something that I would enjoy doing, and is Tony Martin. He's the king. He's really good at putting things into people's ears that are worthwhile. As far as people I admire that I've worked with, and as someone who does something that I don't do, and that is Scott Muller. Scott Muller, as a program director, was probably, I think, the best I've ever seen, because he knows the clock, he knows what can fit into that hour, but he also knows to let people be them and let their gold shine. He's like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. He goes, if you can make it 2 seconds shorter, even better, but that's good. Keep doing that. So let people be themselves and let them win.
One thing that myself and my other half, who says hi, by the way, we're both ex-radio people, and something that we quite often will encounter is we'll wake up and one of us will say, I had a radio dream last night. Is that something that ever happens to you? Do you ever wake up and you've just had some sort of random on-air moment?
Oh, it's been so long since I've had a radio dream. Oh, and they're not dreams though. They were radio nightmares always. They
yes,
were, and it was always the song's running out and the mic's open and I've got nothing to say, or I can't talk, or the news is finishing and I don't have a CD, or sorry, I don't have a CD. How old am I? I don't have a song ready to go or something like that. And I was like, those were mine, and they were awful. I'd wake up going, no. Then after a while, I just stopped having those. Started having stand-up comedy nightmares instead. But
they sound worse.
They're very similar. It's just standing in front of people with nothing to say. But so no, it's been a long time since I've had one, thank God.
And what did you pick up in radio that you still use today with the voiceover or the comedy or emceeing?
Probably not to waste people's time. I mean, radio, you just got to get stuff done. So I'm quite efficient, and I know that everyone's got a job. That's the thing about radio, is that everyone's got something to do. So don't make someone else's job harder. And that's when I go in. I try and nail the script as best I can for the people who want it. I don't stuff around, so I'm always on time. You got to be on time. Radio helps you be on time because, well, when the news finishes, you better be ready. I think word economy is something I learned from radio because they always say, okay, can you do that, but do it quicker. I've learned word economy. That helps writing jokes, especially in stand-up. One thing you don't want to do in stand-up is have the audience sit there going, where's this going? Or I don't understand where we are. I don't understand where this joke is placed. So radio is good at setting things up, really good at that. So I think those skills I've definitely got from radio.
Now, it's snack time, Simon.
Yay.
I've got some fortune cookies.
Oh, nice.
What I'll do is I'll crack open this fortune cookie. Let me know if it resonates and how it reflects on your radio career.
But I'll tell you why it makes sense.
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
What are we in the year of, like the golden dragon or snake or something? I don't know what we're in.
I can't keep track. I mean, even the years with numbers, I can never keep up with. Okay, so what we've got is very quickly finding my reading glasses as opposed to my computer glasses because I'm that age now. I've got half a dozen Okay. Gestures of love to a family member will prove worthwhile. Not really a radio career one, but
you know what? It's true. And, happy. If you want a happy career, you got to have a happy life. I think it's important. And you're right. I can tell you how that relates as you crunch away. I think it relates because sometimes radio people can put themselves so far into the world of radio that they forget the real world's out there. People forget that it's just a job, I remember, right, this is our brand, this is our station, so what we're doing. It's like, screw those other guys, man, the competition, like, fuck them. I was like, it's super competitive. It's like, we're going to kill them. And it's like, do you reckon like people at Coles are going, those Woolworths people, man. It's just a job. And you know what? You end up working with those people one day anyway. The real world is your friends and your family and your loved ones. Like, that's where the real stuff is. This is a job and you should be able to leave it at work. That's what I think that means.
Yeah. What's a workday look like for you these days?
Well, every day's different.
There'd be quite a bit of family for you with you working from home, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got 2 teenage kids, so they're at high school most of the day. My wife is an actor and a voice artist as well. She teaches yoga as well, so our calendar is all over the shop. So today, for instance, I'm talking to you this morning. I've had to record a couple of auditions for my Canadian agent for some overseas jobs. I've got a radio spot. I'm running the Australian Association of Voice Actors as well, so I end up having to do some admin work with that, or some advocacy for the industry around certain topics. One of them being AI at the moment. So that, and then and then there'll be another. And some days tomorrow, I actually off to Sydney Town Hall to do stand-up comedy for a Seniors Week event. Seniors Week, what? And then ABC will be in for a promo this week as well. You never know what it's going to be. So it's hard to predict and it's hard to describe. But be ready, always ready to work.
Where do you see the future of voiceover going with, you mentioned AI, and it's a big threat to not just voiceover, but all sorts of creative endeavours. Where do you think we'll end up?
Ooh, look, I mean, so I'll talk specifically about AI voice cloning, where you can text to speech or whatnot, where you can just type it in and make, AI Andy Marr say whatever you want. Look, the technology, it's very good. It isn't good enough to engage people in an emotional way. If you, say, replaced all of your jocks with an AI version of those jocks, you would probably find your audience engagement to start to really drop off, because there is definitely something lacking There's definitely something missing. I know that like companies like Audible moving into using AI voices to narrate books because it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. But audiobook listeners are pretty wedded to their narrators. They don't like garbage, and they'll probably drift off and stop listening to the whole book. The risk is not to that stuff at the moment, although the companies are going to try. They're going to try and use it. They're going to try and replace people because they want to save money. I think the ones that really go for it like that will probably wish they hadn't. But where that work will go and disappear, and we'll lose that work, will be in the low end stuff. It'll be in the low end. It'll be in cheaper jobs that with small companies who just want to do and explain a video how their water filter works or something like that. Yeah. Jobs that would have gone to someone like yourself or myself.
Well, would they have gone to us, or would they have gone to the lowest bidder on Fiverr, those particular jobs?
Well, that's true as well, because that was sort of where we were heading as well. So
we lost those ones years ago.
Yeah, so there's definitely a tier of work that's disappeared to quality voice actors. And I think that it's actually the low-hanging fruit that will be suffering first. But one thing's important, and that's important for me, is that people who don't want to be cloned, their voices don't want to be cloned, don't get their voices cloned. And that's what we're sort of pushing to fight for, is that there aren't any rights right now that any citizen of this country has to stop someone taking their voice, their image or likeness, and creating an AI clone of it and using it for whatever they want. There's nothing to stop anyone doing it, and that's not fair.
Yeah, we've seen how AI video is getting better, but when people are portrayed against their consent, it can really, really be quite troublesome. So fingers crossed that some laws against image and AI and voice theft will come to the fore sometime soon. As you mentioned recently, it should be an election issue.
It should be an election issue. But one thing that we can do for our profession in the meantime is at least and for the sake of truth, that is, and trustworthy media, is having some mandatory explicit labeling laws that says if it's AI generated content, you should be told that it is. So we're pushing for that.
Well, Simon, long live humans, both on air and off. It's been amazing having your company again, mate. It's been so good to talk to you.
It's my pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
That was Simon Kennedy. If you get the chance, do go and check out his live comedy. He's a master. And if you want more insight into the day-to-day life of a voiceover artist, check out our episode with Cecilia Ramsdale.
My fingers just dance across the keyboards in Pro Tools, and I know how to use it all, and it just makes that part of my job so much easier.
You can catch that episode wherever you found this one. And if there's something about the transition away from radio that you don't think I've been covering enough on this podcast, I'd love you to let me know. You can leave a comment in YouTube, or you can catch me on the socials. You can find me by my name on LinkedIn or by the podcast name on Instagram, Facebook and Blue Sky. The podcast name again is Off Mic, Life After Radio. I'm Andy Marr. May your best years be ahead of you.